Oh, there, I know what I did wrong here.
You got on me.
Oh, don't tell me I got to turn this around. Danny, we're live, but they're looking at me right now.
Perfect.
Hey, Kelvin, you know how to flip this around? There's got to be an easy way to do
We're
it.
live. I love it.
There it is. All right. Hey, folks, we got to get Danny on. Oh, I'm back again. Danny! That's the Danny Kadota
Hook
Show.
up. We got it.
I knew there was something wrong.
The boat
Weird
righted.
going on
The
again.
boat righted itself. We're good. We're
For
ready to
like
go.
30 seconds, man. You
I
know,
love
I'll
it.
tell you.
I love it.
This is insane. Let me tell you. Hey, how about Dan Smith? He just wants to say hello, Phil, Captain Danny, and all you good fishing folks from the Friedman Adventures family. Kim and I wish you all a great evening and a great day at the show tomorrow. Kim and I are going to be out fishing on Sunday. Good to stay close to home. But we'll beat the Del Mar show. They're going to go to the Del Mar show, so we'll see them there.
Oh, cool.
So
Cool,
today,
that's
the
awesome.
Bart Hall Show opened, man, and I talked to Bart's son, and he told me the line was out to the street.
Oh,
and the
thank
parking
you.
lot was full
God
today,
bless
right,
him.
boys?
That's awesome. That's
I got a
awesome.
couple guys here that flew in from China, Tom, Flaws, and Kelvin, and thank you for being here, you guys.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Great
it.
being here.
But I'll tell
This is our
you.
live audience. We love it.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better.
Should I show
Oh,
you?
we already have the story. Yeah, the stories we talked about already are worthwhile. They're worth the price of admission.
Oh, you guys talking?
Yeah.
I know, you left me out of it. How come?
It was about you. Just kidding.
You're talking about me again, huh?
Actually, we never talked about him in front of him.
Yeah.
All right, we might as well get the guys from China on our. Say hi, boys.
Hello.
Tom Flaws and Kelvin. Are you guys having fun here in California?
Oh, everything, yes.
All right. Yeah, they're great guys.
That's awesome.
I've taken them to some great coffee shops where they have some really good coffee,
Oh,
Danny. That we can't talk about on air. So, yeah, Bart Hall, when are you going to be up there?
You know, I'm thinking of sneaking in probably Saturday.
Okay.
Maybe spend the whole day there. You're gonna. We
I'll probably go up there tomorrow. I'll see you Saturday.
Okay.
I'll be there
We
Sunday.
tag team some of the people.
Heck yeah.
Do some interviews with all the boys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's for me. It was always an important deal. I mean, not necessarily, but I mean, it was a launch time for the public on products. You know, most of the stuff we knew about beforehand, but it was fun being in the manufacturing side and everything, to where you know, you really go around the shop, the whole show, and check everything out, because there's always things that can change your fishing. One item can do that. And so I did this as a consulting type deal for Bob Sarber when he had, Peterson's Fishing Magazine. They would fly me into the shows, and we would, like the AFMA shows, the big shows when they were in Vegas, and I would spend 2 days just walking the show, picking up and looking for innovative products. There's a lot of hokey things out there, your flying fishermen, your things that are gimmicky marketing type things. But, to look at truly innovative things that are, displayed at the show was one of the things that I went to go look at.
You want to know the difference between Danny and I? They used to fly Danny into the show. They'd fly me out to get rid of me. So. Oh my God, it's embarrassing, Danny. Let me tell you.
Somebody better get out of here, Phil.
No, it was a fun deal. It was a fun deal. The only thing was that at the end of the show, they'd have hundreds of boxes showing up at the house, and everybody had their latest and greatest things. A lot of them were pretty hokey, but to go through all the hundreds of new items, we'd be lucky to find a couple things that were really, truly innovative. And that was one of the things that, as a technical fisherman, those are the things that I would be looking for. So,
hey, Gary Bush. You know Gary?
Yes.
Gary says, hello, Danny and Phil. Missed you guys up in Sacramento last weekend at their big show. Spent Friday and Saturday with your buddy, Mr. Cuono.
Kono, yeah.
Yeah,
Kono,
who's
Brad.
that?
The guy that's doing all the graphite handles.
Oh, very cool. Oh, Brad?
Yes, Brad.
Oh, Brad's been in here. He's a nice gentleman.
Yes, yes.
Hey, Gary,
Well,
good to have you here with us, man. I appreciate it
Excited
very, very
about
much.
that, Gary, too, because, hopefully we get that. It's that concept, Phil, and that graphite handle and the way it's done.
Yeah.
Now, you saw it in play on the Freedom, but I have all my rods on. They're so light. They're so powerful. They actually will technically affect the way the rods will shut off.
Really?
It's not. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By bringing the foregrips up an inch 2 inches, it shuts the rod off that much more, and becomes a much more powerful rod. It puts you up in a different line class. So it's really one of the first times that, to me, it's one of the most innovative things around, and I don't think the industry's caught on yet. You know, but then again, that my mind goes there to take, say, this 130-pound blank that I'm implementing, and to bring the handle out 2 more inches, and now it's a 40-pound rod.
Yeah.
That's never been done before.
Right,
You can't,
right.
It just doesn't happen. And you can stay with a high-tech, high-performance straight graphite, but it's not for everybody. So the guy that really understands what's going on, doesn't high stick, knows how to pull on fish, I guarantee you will hook and catch more fish. But you'll figure it. They'll figure it out. They'll see it.
Gary says he fished them on the Shogun and handed them off to you, Mr. Kadota. That's what he says.
On the Shogun?
Yeah.
I haven't been on the Shogun.
Maybe he fished them on the Shogun and then gave them to you afterwards? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He used them.
Yeah.
He used them, those prototypes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you feel the difference in the lightness, the graphite handles, the whole system, and to be able to use a straight graphite rod. And these last ones are done by Lamaglass, who were the first graphite, manufacturers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when Gary Loomis was still at Lamaglass before he branched off into G. Loomis. Yeah.
Michael Lamone, the young man who fishes there, he's saying, good evening, Phil and Danny. This is Michael. I thought you weren't going to have a show tonight. Well, I kind of thought so too, but things change with the Friedman Adventures
But we missed
YouTube
Michael.
channel. We don't know what we're doing around here, so what can I tell you?
Yeah, and Michael missed out. He's the one that keeps score for us down on the dock with his fish. He's out down there whacking them the whole time.
Exactly. We got to get Kelvin down there catching some fish tonight, man. Dan Smith says, Danny, with that good-looking windbreaker and jeans, calm down, Dan. What's with you tonight? I swear, you look like you are heading to a pilot house to run a boat tonight. Was the Mustang a twin or a single screw?
It was a twin screw. It had twin 871s in it. Yeah, Detroit's.
Did you?
But back then, most of the boats, guys, back in those generations, we were using all surplus Detroit engines. They're surplus from World War II and the Korean, or whatever. But they were very readily available. Parts were available. They were cheap to run. Fuel was 17 cents. Get that, 17 cents for diesel, folks. I can remember. So things.
It's
are
like what,
different.
$6 now or $5 or?
I don't even know. I don't
yeah,
wanna
it's
know.
brutal.
These poor guys now. I mean,
Oh
the
my
expenses
God.
are just tremendous.
And the prices of the boats keep going up.
Well, yeah,
And that makes it hard on the guy that wants to go fishing.
yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. But Phil, I've been going to the gas station. I don't know. Everybody probably sees it. Election year coming up. How did our gas get cut from $7 to, I was there the other day, under $4?
It's funny. I was telling Tom and Kelvin the other day.
Is that amazing or what?
Well, do you think after November it's going to go up again?
Oh, yeah. Depends who's in power.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, after November, the same guy will still be in power for a few more months. So
Yeah.
Whoever knows.
Well, hopefully we get the other guy where he'll turn the spigot back on.
I don't want to get into any political stuff. Well,
I don't really care.
I don't. Yeah. Go for it, Danny. This is your damn
I don't
show.
really care. I'm just pointing out facts.
Yeah,
what can I say?
I'm with you. Dan wants to know, how was it looking out the back of the wheelhouse of the Mustang?
From that height, you couldn't see a whole lot. To look out the back, I'd look out the side windows mainly, and you could see more the outside jig lines and things like that. But I was more concerned what was in front of me, and that's why we were I got to be one of the first guys, along with George Mayo, to implement the scanning sonars, and that was the edge where looking out in front, you didn't have to worry about what you hooked behind us. And by that time, you're already over the school. We were able to scan out, and you could sweep 180 degrees or 360. But the problem is, like I said, if you narrowed the beam down, you had a faster spread. In other words, if you used 90 degrees, your beam, if the signal would be going click, 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 click. If you had 180, it's clicking, going 180 degrees. But by the time you come sweep back to this side over here, that you left, you may have missed the spot of fish. it took that much time. So having a quicker a sweep on your signal and shooting out in front, it was much more advantageous to us.
All right, everybody, hit that like button. I don't want Danny to break into tears here if not
Yeah,
enough people. And don't look at that, Danny, because that's not the accurate. We're up to 6 likes now. We need
There
a
you
whole
go.
bunch more. This is not our usual time, but we just decided to go on the air a little bit early to get Tony home. And, I want
poor
to spend a
Tony.
few more hours with these guys from China because they're out of here
Absolutely.
tomorrow. And I might not see them for another 43 years,
Oh,
you know,
geez. Yeah,
which means
yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
dead.
yes, but
Hey, don't forget you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to the Friedman Adventures channel. We deeply appreciate it when you do that. Don't forget the Bart Hall Show through Sunday at the Long Beach Convention Center. Danny's going to be there Saturday with yours truly. We'll be running around like a couple of kids in a candy store,
absolutely.
right?
Looking at new products. I mean, that was always fun. I loved doing that all those years, going to consulting and looking at new products. So
There's
a big
nothing
part of
better.
it. Nothing's better.
I'll tell you, man. All right, a couple more. Gary Bush. He wants to get political here. Vote Republican, says Gary. All right.
What can I say?
You want to make a comment about
Yeah.
that out there, man? We'll turn this into a political food fight tonight. Let's do it. Patrick and Sarah Harnjack in the beautiful state of Montana are joining us tonight. Good
nice.
evening, gentlemen. Gentlemen, who came in? Dan Smith says, thanks, Danny. Yeah, Kim and I seen the Mustang last summer when we were coming in from outside. She sure is pretty. Beautiful lines even today.
It was the first Drake craft that came off the line, and they were built up in Oxnard, and yeah, the lines were good. The Mustang in particular was a little bit different from all the rest because it had 3 sheets of plywood instead of 2. So that's one reason why it fishes better. It's quieter. It dampens the sound. You got more weight. I mean, there's a lot more to move around, but it does fish better. And I think that has a lot to do with it too, the way it sits in the water. Yeah.
Hey, if you happen to be watching this and you are at the Bart Hall Show, drop by the Independence booth. Don't forget, we have a 5-day trip. I'll be on that trip. The very one and only Scott Bouchard will be on that trip. And I'm sure there's going to be some shenanigans that everybody will be totally disgusted by. But anyway, that is April the 4th through the 9th on board the Independence out of San Diego. It's got bluefin tuna written all over it. Visit independentsportfishing.com, or better yet, drop by and see Mark and Paul at the Independence booth. And make sure you go pull Mike Morrison's beard at the 22nd Street
go.
Landing booth.
There you go.
That big red beer, man, it's just begging to get pulled. I'll tell you
Beautiful.
that right now. Danny, he wants to know, or he actually says Mr. Kadota. Let me correct myself here.
Wow.
And that's Patrick up there in Montana. Do you have any upcoming trips planned this year? What boats? Trip lengths?
Well, I have my yearly trip on the American Angler. It's at the end of June this year.
Oh, really?
But it's an eight-day trip. But,
8-day.
Last year we had that thing. It was an 8-dayer, but the weather was up, and it turned out to be a blessing. I mean, a blessing in some respects.
Yeah.
But generally we schedule the rundown. With 8 days you can get down to the rocks. And last year we had some intel that there were some big yellows at the rocks, and I was kind of really excited about going down there. But by the time our trip came up, the weather also came up, and the guys were just taking a beating down below. So we opted to stay and fish up here. We changed it adapted it to a 5-day trip, which was unbelievable, folks. We fished, and I felt bad for the crew. Those poor guys never got any sleep because those bluefin bit day and night. It wasn't just nighttime. The first night we ran straight out, and we're running in between Clemente and Catalina out toward and Santa Barbara, in the triangle out there. And we got into those bigger fish that night, but we took a beating. I mean, we have talked about this, the way it was coming over the rails and getting soaked, but
How big, by the way? Because our studio audience, they don't know anything about these fish. So how big were those
those
bluefin you were
fish were,
catching?
they're a lot of them over 100. A lot of them are over 100 to maybe 160 in that range.
Big
but
fish,
I mean,
man. 160
nice
pounds.
fish. And especially when you're doing this, going up and down and taking water in the scuppers,
you guys were getting
taking
your
them
butts
over the
kicked.
top of the it was unbelievable. And then every day it laid down and it got nicer and nicer. But we fished all 5 days. Just a phenomenal trip. they made it a very pleasant trip. So we didn't get our heads beat in. But I did miss my yellowtail. Caught a couple like Clemente and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But no, they adapted over, and you know what? Trust in the captains and the crews for those decisions. I mean, what we want may not be, what's practical. If I wanted what I wanted, we probably got our heads beaten in, probably wouldn't have caught anything, and been on, riding back and forth from Alejos for 2 days,
Yeah.
getting your head beat in and not worth it. So, you trust in the crew and your captain.
Yeah, they're great on that
always
boat.
they always call it right.
Yeah.
Between Brian and Ray, they don't miss.
Yeah.
And so we trust in them. Yeah.
Fantastic. Patrick is back, and he says, anything new and exciting this year that you have heard about? New jigs, reels. What about a secret hot new thing for 2024? New albacore feathers. I like the way Patrick's thinking, man. We're going to be catching albacore this year.
Could be.
We're gonna be filming a lot of that, Patrick, over the course of the next 4 days.
That's why we go. I mean, these are the consumer shows that all the new products are unleashed at. So that's the one reason for you to go. The other reason is to see, like for us, it's a social deal. We see all our friends that we haven't seen in the industry for the year, and you get to talk and BS with them and have a good time. One of the things I look forward to is taking my granddaughters.
Oh yeah, there's
grandkids
some adorable
to the trout
pictures.
ponds,
Yeah.
and I mean, and folks, that's where you want to get them hooked. That's why Bart and Bill and all these shows concentrate on that, because keeping the family thing, and particularly trout fishing, that's something that we embrace as a family, and the whole family would go up to Sierras, and it's part of my life. I wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah, for sure,
So
for sure.
that's
And
a
then
big part of
passing
it.
that
That's-
along to your grandkids is just so
yeah,
important.
and that's how you started at these shows, folks. I took my granddaughter Gia a couple years ago when she was 2, and I couldn't pry the rod out of her hand. I could, she sat there, and I finally had to say, Gia, we got to let the other kids. By that time we went in a little early, but I don't know where she got that idea, but she wouldn't leave till she got a limit.
Danny, I've got to say one thing, and I rarely criticize you, but bringing the lift pole into the trout pond was a little overkill.
Yeah. I was trying to show her how to wing them.
Yeah, exactly. I saw her, man. She was winging them under her arm and flipping them off.
That'd have
throwing
been
them in
my
the ice chest.
That'd have been my grandma. You should have seen her.
I love it, man. That is too freaking funny. Hey, you know this guy, but probably not by name. Like me, I know. If I see the guy, Dennis Martin, big fan of ours. When we had our 10,000 subscriber party and we made the burritos, he was here making. He had spinal surgery. He's in a whole lot of pain right now.
Oh no!
But I think the prognosis is really good.
Oh, that's
and
good.
I just want to send my love and your love.
Yeah.
I know we want to Dennis
Heal
get
up.
better.
We're sending out healing prayers to you, buddy. So get better, Dennis. Yep.
You're number one. All right, Dan Smith is back. And he says, hit that like button. It's like giving Phil and Danny a hug. Dan, nothing can surpass your hugs. But it's close. You're right. So, yeah, give us a virtual hug. Gary Bush, no better place than Pyramid. So I know nothing about freshwater bass fishing. Danny, this is in your wheelhouse. No pun intended.
I've never fished Pyramid.
No, okay.
Either one. The one at the corner of the state and the one above Castaic.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I spent all my time. Well, we were always fishing the trophy largemouths. Now, had I been a striper fisherman or something, Pyramid Lake above Castaic was a phenomenal place to catch stripers. Although some of those did come down and sneak into Castaic over the years. But yeah, I've never really fished them because my focus was always on the largemouth.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Dan Smith is back. Danny winging them. Man, oh man, fishing them on bait. And then when they go completely nuts, put on the squids. And for everybody out there, a lot of people don't know what that is. A squid. Go ahead.
A squid is a big, well, back in the old days, it was a brass hook. It's just a pick. A big, heavy
Little feather
brass
on
head,
it.
the old ones. White feather, usually very simple.
Right.
And then we would use a skin to keep the
Yep.
feathers from getting wrapped. It was a pick. So here's your head, your lead head, and here's your pick. And it hit the water, and the albies would be on it, or yellowfin.
Or bonita in the harbor
Yeah.
when you're picking a
And you
trash
just-
can
yeah,
full.
Yeah. And you just lift. You got to be careful. You got to make sure that the length of the Fieta, I guess I can't remember exactly, but the Fieta, I think, you're basically your leader.
Yeah,
You got to make sure it clears your head, because if that big
yeah,
metal squid hits you,
you're
lose
dead.
You're dead, or you lose. Yeah, you have a nice little chunk or a big hole there in your head. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are fun times.
Some of us can't, we can't afford having more holes in the head already.
And
Yeah.
I made reference
That
to
was
picking a trash can full of bonita. I'm not talking about nowadays, everybody, but back when I was a kid, like 12 years old, I'd look at my brother and say, how much can we get for a trash can full of bonita? He'd say, like, 15, 20 bucks. And I go, let's do it, man. What could be more fun?
Oh, come on.
You pick a whole trash
Come
can
on.
full of them.
Exactly.
And the pick, just so everybody knows, and most people do know, but once they hit the deck, they're off the hook. They're off. Or you lay them in the trash can, and then you're back in the water fishing right now again.
Yep.
I know this gets Dan super excited, man. He really gets excited when he hears about this. So, all right, let's go. Gary Bush says Cutthroat in Nevada.
Okay, so he's talking about Pyramid up at the corner of the state.
Yeah.
I've been by there so many times watching these guys with their ladders out there, and I've heard different things. I'd still like to get up there, but I heard that it's getting kind of cutthroat from what I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the gentleman fishing
out the window?
Could be, from what I hear. What it was these guys would all set up ladders out there, and a lot of them was done with fly fishing, and guys would take each other's ladders, and so I heard some different stories, but who knows? I haven't been up there, but I'm just hearing it from guys that fish up there.
Daniel Llanos is one heck of a member of the Friedman Adventure family and a super good guy. Hello, Dan and Phil. Prayers for Dennis. Daniel, thank you so much, my friend. We appreciate it, man. We got a great family here, don't we? I mean, these guys with the prayers and everything else.
Yeah, we care. That's the thing. The fellow fishermen. Come on, we love you all.
Matthew Cruz wants to know who has the best deals at Bart Hall. I know that Promar's doing some stuff. I only know the guys that I went by limited time here the last couple of days. Sam De La Torre, of course, we do a show with Sam, so I'm all tuned in on him. Yeah. He's got a ton of stuff. But, Matthew, you can wander around there, and I'm sure you're going to find a lot more good deals, for sure.
You got to walk the show. You'll never know. And that's some of the best things, that you'll find at the shows, as you walk around. Well, generally, look to see where the crowds are. There's probably a reason why those crowds are jammed into.
It's like a restaurant, right? Like,
right. You don't want to.
There's nobody in this place, and there's a line out the door.
Exactly.
Wonder what that means.
When you find a fleet sitting tight,
There's some fish there.
A couple guys scattered out here. Where would you rather be for the most part now?
Exactly.
Unless you had intel that the couple boats over here are really, sinking their boats with fish, So, yeah.
Patrick up there in Montana, 2025 show, the Danny K and Phil Frieman booth. You're reading my mind. I'll tell you that. Bart was like, Phil, come on, this was last minute. So I was looking at the banners and trying to get it all done, and I just thought, I don't want to do this halfway. So next year, you're reading my mind, Patrick.
We'll plan on it. Yeah, we'll plan on that.
Danny and I will be there for sure. 540 Slinger, Jeff Yeomans, veteran of the U.S. Navy, and a great guy. Jeff, good evening to you. And he says, good evening, Phil and Danny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel Lightfoot says, hit that like button, Dan Smith. Danny, if the albacore do come in, what do you mean if they come in? What are you talking about? They're on their way right now the next few years. Will you please book a trip with Phil? Oh, I didn't read this, man. That would be so cool. Okay, I better shut up now. Too much coffee. If they do show up, you and I are going to go out and catch a couple. I'm going to fish. I love catching those things, man.
Yeah. But everybody does, Phil.
Yeah.
That is the fish that brings people out of the woodwork. Guaranteed. That was the one that we were blessed in '83 when we got H&M Landing. And once again, I'm going to refer back to this. The biologist said the water's, everything's going to die because the water was too hot from El Nino in '83. So that's when we were able to, Ralph Miller, I guess, may have listened to the biologist and
said, I'm out of here.
And sold the landing to us, and 84, 85 were record albacore years. So, you don't know. Nobody knows.
Too
It's
complex.
Mother Nature
Too
deal.
complicated.
It's whatever. And honest to
mysterious.
goodness, we'll take whatever's out there. In
Yeah.
83 and over, we had the big eyes, the yellowfin were wide open, Dorado, you name it. It was phenomenal. But 84 and 85 were record albacore years. So you just don't know. It switches that quick overnight, And so you just keep your fingers crossed. We don't know. We don't have that crystal ball. All we know is if there's fish out there, we're going to go fish it. We'll adapt. That's why we have such a wide range of tackle. You go out there and you fish. Yeah.
All right, Dan Bates. Hey, Dan, how are you, my friend? Good evening, boys. I watched the Danny and Gary Loomis show again. Wow, a great one. That was a fantastic show on so many different levels. You two guys, first of all, are a couple of clowns, and you have so many great stories. But, man, I mean, some of the
Phil,
stuff that you guys talked about cracked me up.
It was fun because you're blazing trails. I mean, it was at a time where, Spectra was just coming in. There were a lot of things that changed the technology in reels, and we were real close with Toyo Shimano at the time. So we had all the prototypes, and like the first Trinities Toyo got me and stuff like that. So I mean, it was a fun time because you talk about doing a show. We had the show in our hands, and it was amazing smoke testing these things and doing that. But the better part was the laughter and the goofing around that we had. Like I said,
Yeah.
we took Gary on that first tuna trip, and he had the little patches for seasick. All of us would go down the bunk room, peel it off his ear, behind his ear, so he'd get woozy again. We messed
You
around
dirty
so
rats.
much. Oh yeah, and everything was fair game with us. But that was the fun part of the whole deal.
That's great stuff. And man, I love that story about the saltwater crocodiles. He was going to walk down there and make a cast, and the guy goes, no, 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 no. And I used to watch in Costa Rica when I was a kid living there, the women throwing flowers out on the Rio Tqckle where somebody was eaten by a saltwater crocodile the night before, the week before.
Holy
so that always stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Like, those things are nasty.
Yeah.
And that was it.
But I mean, like with us though, it was, how are we going to mess with each other?
Yeah, I know. It's great.
I mean, you name it. I mean, that was, one-upmanship on, like I say, pulling his seasick patch off, or he would, take your line off the reel, cut it, wind it back on, so when you cast, it just goes.
Yeah, exactly.
And you couldn't show any emotion, because if you showed emotion, he got you.
Yeah.
So you couldn't let him know that he got the upper hand. You just go, oh, well, okay, get another reel.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The other night, speaking of getting woozy, this is funny. My wife and I went to a buffet. I won't even say which one, but we got a little food poisoning. And so she, at the drop of, if someone says something that's slightly disgusting, she'll start throwing up. It's the funniest thing. So I'm kind of like, I'm dry heaving, and she's going, Felipe, stop, in Spanish. And all of a sudden, I look over at her. She's got both hands on her ears, and she's praying, Dios, like, please, God, make him stop. Stop. Now I'm belly laughing, man. Just looking at her, closing her ears, and praying to God that I stop. So, oh my God, too funny. I don't think you're supposed to do that with your wife, but I get a lot of fun.
It's better with your fishing buddies, folks. Yeah. Trust me, it's better with your fishing buddies. You can get away with that a lot better, a lot easier.
I love it. Hey, Patrick, it's always good to see you with Sarah here. Did you see the RP almost had a super cow today, 292? I did. I covered that on the morning briefing.
Yeah, they've been whacking some nice fish.
That's
wow, awesome.
I put up a video the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but it was the largest yellowfin tuna ever caught, and I actually had some footage of it when it was caught. It was 445. It's caught by a guy by the name of David Petruscu in 2012 on the XL. Well, he's out on the XL right now, and they're catching some 200-pounders right now, too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And Danny, guess what they're catching at Todos Santos Island off Ensenada, full speed right now? They're long and slimy.
Really?
Gar are wide open for a couple weeks now. The barracuda bites, man.
Wow.
Outstanding. There was a
Slimies.
Mexican panga guy, man. He's speaking in Spanish, so many people won't understand him, but there's no mistaking that he's excited. And you can, and the word in Spanish, barracuda, is similar enough. He's yelling, barracuda! He's saying, they've arrived, here they are. And man, they were throwing on some big fish, logs,
so
man.
what a way to launch, like Scott Manson's launching his boat, right? And a 45, I mean, there you go. There's
And
your
Scott has a
barracuda
booth
jig.
at the Bart Hall Show.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go by and interview
we'll have to
him.
go see him. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. We go, the Taddy family we go way back, so that's fun. That's going to be really fun.
And, you may have referenced it, but for our new guys out there, barracuda fishing, the only way to do it is on the iron. Throwing a lure, right?
Like it. Nothing like
Something like, there's only one lure hanging up there, but
yeah.
Will that work?
Oh, absolutely. That's
there you go.
one of the colors.
What is that, a 45?
Yep.
There
that was part of that was the old, our Mustang color too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the Danny Kadota Mustang color Taddy 45 on sale tonight for the super low price of $499.95.
And Scott knows in the booth, we were right here at 22nd Street, Phil, when we were painting the boat, and all our beat up jigs, we were shooting with linear polyurethane with the seafoam green, and Taddy and Taddy Shimizu had his son Billy with him at the time. Billy would travel around with him, and we were shooting those jigs that color. And oftentimes we even used Detroit diesel green, but we were just shooting with paint. But that green became a very hot color for calico fish, calico bass, yellowtail, and everything. Most of our fishing before we went to San Diego was all Clemente and Catalina.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out to be a phenomenal color for them
over
the years.
What do you think about that? Barracuda showing up this early. That's
nice.
Like maybe an El Nino thing, or who knows?
I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
But we're going to have good fishing. The biomass of bait's still out there. The squid's on the banks.
Yeah.
I don't think this fish are going anywhere.
Pat O'Brien, who runs the Aloha Spirit up there at Cisco, says these halibut are spawning early this year. He said they are spawning. Yeah. He had 34 for 18 guys 10 days ago or something like that.
That's great fishing.
Yeah.
Come on, this is January.
Right.
I mean,
we're in the dead of winter. Too. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Jeff Yeomans. Hopefully those barracuda are around nachos as well, or navos as well. Yeah, hopefully, man. I'm hoping that gar is going to show up in full force this year.
That's so fun.
Maybe those sand bass will come back.
Well, and then like our half-day business, three-quarter day business will go crazy too. Yeah. That's always fun. But just being able to sling that iron, I think that's what the iron does. That surface iron is nothing better.
Yeah.
Than firing the iron, for a barracuda.
There's a gentleman, I don't know his last name, Freddie. Do you know Fred? He fishes on the Monte Carlo, Japanese gentleman. He's a super great fisherman and even a better person. Nice guy, but I want to see him slinging some on, man, because he's a really good fisherman.
Yeah, there's a bunch of the old school guys that,
awesome. He really gets it good done. Patrick says, I remember throwing irons on the bow of the Spitfire at a Marina del Rey. The older men smoking cigars would toss them over, and the barracuda would boil up on every cigar as it hit the water. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk that you could catch barracuda on a cigar?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the heck, right? I've told you that story when I went to Costa Rica, and if I've told you this story again, don't tell me because I'd like to hear it again myself. But this old priest, man, Father Eustachio, he was a gringo priest, and he goes, come on, Felipe, my first, I was at a seminary, and he just loved drinking rum and cokes, taking his cigarettes, he'd be smoking, and he'd flip them out and watch the toads eat them because they thought they were fireflies. And then he goes, watch, they're going to spit it out. And you go, oh, man, I have another cigarette now. Anyway, kind of along that same line there.
Oh, good.
I'm sure we're going to get thrown in jail by PETA tonight after all these torture stories of poor little frogs and barracuda. Dan Smith, we had 85. We had 58-degree water on Friday. It could easily be 55, 54, right?
Sure.
They had
that's not bad.
60-degree water somewhere up in the bay. Or no, Pat had it up there on the Aloha Spirit. He said he had 60 up there. So, and plenty of squid on the backside of the island up there. So looking good. David Rosenthal. Saw David at La Fogata. Dave, good to see you, my friend. He says, good evening, Danny and Phil. Or he says Phil and Danny. Patrick, I was like 11 years old and thought was the coolest thing ever. I wonder if you, what year was that, Patrick? I wonder if my son was pinheading on the boat.
Chumming cudas
those
with
days.
cigars.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
I know.
we've had Albies on cigarette butts and stuff like
You have?
that. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
You put a
We've
hook
seen
in a
them.
cigarette butt or
Oh, yeah,
just threw
well,
it over?
We've thrown it over. You watch them come up.
Yeah.
Net 'em or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, but we have free gapped them.
Okay.
We have free gapped
So they're
them
swimming
at
by
times,
and they
so
gaff
swimming
'em.
by, yeah.
Oh, just
Yeah.
Yeah, with a big, yeah.
Okay.
You get some crazy bites and you'll see stuff that you just can't believe. But when you're out there every day, yeah, it's amazing.
We were on the frickin' Amigo when that crazy Dorado bite was going on, and the cook threw over a coffee cake that I think was like stale or it was done.
Yeah,
The frickin' Dorado chewed it
Chewed
to
it up.
shreds.
amazing. That is amazing.
Coffee cake Dorado jigs.
There you
I think. If we have that booth in 2025, that's what
Yeah, we
we're
have to
selling.
paint some up.
Cigarette butt, albacore jigs, and
yeah.
we'll have it all, Danny. We're going to rope this market up. David Rosenthal, one of my best friends, swears that barracuda makes excellent sashimi when handled properly. Wouldn't surprise me. It makes
No, I
great
wouldn't either. Yeah,
ceviche
yeah. Well, you don't want a barracuda sitting in a gunny sack on a hot day.
or anything
Or
else.
it's just like anything else. You cut it, get it on ice, bleed it out, and everything. Yeah, makes all the difference in the quality of the meat. that you'll
Yeah,
have.
100%.
Yeah.
Smoked barracuda is great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Leroy was saying from the Searcher days.
Yeah.
I think was it Leroy he made like these balls and with the barracuda and I think deep fried them maybe and he said they were
Probably.
so
Leroy
good.
does a lot of good cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does. And he's always posting his menus on Facebook, so I get to
yeah.
check up on my
I see
buddy.
that too. Yeah.
Leroy is a very important person
Yep.
in my life because my brother Paul and I, when we walked on the Searcher, were really green and really young, and him and Norm took us under their wings. And
Yeah, he had it.
with
but-
Frank and everybody
yeah,
else.
Frank.
Lopreste.
Was Dave around? His Norm's older
Dave
brother
was
too?
there, I believe, and there was a guy running the boat once in a while named Al Rich.
Mhm.
Al was down. Do you remember that name? Or
Yes.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
second on the Searcher.
Yeah.
And then who else? Gary. Shoot, there was a Gary I think on deck too, and he went on to own boats and everything else. I can't remember. his
Not
name.
Gary Black.
No, not Gary Black.
Yeah, Gary Black, right? Yeah.
Yeah, shoot, I'm stretching my memory
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there was all Lopreste and all those guys. It was great.
Yeah.
Great, and those
Great
guys were all great to us. They
Absolutely.
took such good care of us, Frank
Absolutely.
included,
Yep.
everybody. So yeah, they got our whole
Yeah,
thing
that-
going. What year did Philip Pinhead down there? Geez, that's a good question. I want to say 94, or probably like 2009ish, something like that. I would say something around that time. Jeff Yeoman's caught Dorados on cigarette butts. There you go, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna frickin' make a cigarette butt lure.
There you go.
Who needs these?
Or better yet, have Scott Manson paint up a 45 in a cigarette.
There you
Put a
go.
flame on the back.
Yeah, really, I like that. That's so funny with the smoke coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how I want it. Thank you, Jeff. That's friggin' awesome. Emmanuel Navedo,
Oh,
good
good.
evening, guys. Hi from Florida. Emmanuel, always great to see you, my friend. You're staying up late for us. Well, it's not that late, but when you're old like me, it's late. Hope everyone is having a blessed day. Same to you. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. Dan Smith, Kim and her auntie make Chinese-style fish balls with the barracuda. There you go. Super delicious.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
barracuda, my grandmother used to make. Have you ever had the fish cakes, the kamaboko?
Yeah.
My grandma used to make it out of barracuda when we were kids. Yeah. I didn't eat it, but she used to make it, And I guess it was good. But it was funny when I was young. I did not eat fish. I caught them, but didn't eat them.
Kind of like
Weird.
working at a fast food place. You don't eat the food because you work there. So now you're.
Yeah, you get tired of it, right?
Well,
Smelling it all day.
now I love. I prefer to eat fish now, but yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't. Yeah.
All right. Patrick says, really? I was a pinhead for a bit on the new Del Mar in 2008. So Jeff Jessup was the guy that was running the Spitfire, if that helps you out, Patrick. I know Jeff was because he was my babysitter for a while, man. Every, the weekends I take my kids down and dump them off for 12 hours. And I could do all my
Perfect.
976 tuna
There you
reports,
go.
man. So that was good stuff. So we got barracuda at Todos Santos. That's a good sign. We've had some extraordinarily good, in my opinion, wintertime bass fishing this year. And remember, we got that little
The
like,
halibut.
yeah,
I mean, there's been some. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. Yeah. Well, Phil, as fishermen, you just have to take whatever Mother Nature throws at you and just say thank you. Because that's you just don't know. I can't call it. I can't. We can hope, but what I've known is the more you start thinking you can figure it out, the less you know.
yeah,
Yeah. So.
yeah. The minute you think you know it, yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, Tom, there's going to be a gorgeous sunset tonight. Maybe it's already occurred, but
I got a picture of a couple of storks.
oh,
I know
perfect.
That doesn't sound too exciting, but when you're from Chicago, you don't see that.
Yeah, right.
So,
From Chicago and China. You've been in China
Chicago.
lately.
Were you born in Chicago?
born in Chicago. I was born in the city, but I lived in the southwest area outside.
I was born in Chicago,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Illinois Masonic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we came back out here in 1956. Yeah.
What a small world.
Yeah,
Probably the winter,
amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, February here is a big
Yep.
difference in February.
All right. Jeff Yeoman says deep fried cuda is excellent, especially from Anna on the Aloha Spirit. Anna, I hope you're watching because Jeff is talking your great food up, and
There you go.
if Jeff says it's so, I believe it, man. Deep fried cuda. Like I said, I made ceviche out of barracuda. It was good. Smoked is good.
I think anything, as long as when it's fresh, it's pretty hard to hurt it. Probably the worst way to do is to overcook a lot of that stuff. And then it gets kind of fishy. But
Well, wasn't there a time, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but wasn't there a time when albacore was kind of a trash fish? Like way back? I mean, I
it
think
had
I
to be
remember
pretty
Tom
far
Durr
back
saying
because
that.
it was always a premium it was a premium fish for cans.
Yeah,
because it was one.
Totally, totally.
But
That was Tom Durr, so this
I
might be
didn't
like
eat a lot.
1780
And
or
be
something.
honest, when I was fishing albacore all those years and we were killing them
Yeah,
in 84, 85, I can count on the number of times on my hand that I ate it.
yeah.
You just didn't want anything to do with it because that oil when you're cutting the fish.
Yeah. I
gets
get
in your
it.
hand, you go, But now I kind of crave it. It's different.
I love
Yeah,
that
thanks,
stuff,
yeah.
man. But you're right. Once you're around, like I get that way
With
cooking
any
one
fish?
meal.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I cook a prime rib or something, I'm dealing with it all day and smelling it all day. I want a freaking hot dog at the end because I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
I've been smelling
Well,
that the whole time.
Diversifying the way you cook them and the way you prepare them. That's what's always fun about like with going to Andy's, doing the sushi deal. All these different ways that you can prep the fish to make it work. Serum, that was one of the things that I brought into like San Diego. I had Kathy Miller Day at the Docks, and to sear the tuna. And that came about because my daughters would not eat it raw, but a friend seared it, rolled it in furikake, and then seared it. And before you know it, I mean, that was a hot deal.
Why don't you tell everybody exactly what furikake is?
Furikake, well, they use it to top on rice, and it's got seaweed, sesame seeds.
Okay.
It could have any number of combination of different ingredients in it, but you sprinkle it on top. Now, so you take a albacore loin or a tuna loin, and you have it cut so where like a sashimi piece, where it's a couple, 2.5 inches by about an inch or something like that. You roll it in the furikake. You sear it very lightly on each side, so it just
getting
barely
hungry.
cooks.
I've had that before.
Pull it off
Yeah,
real
it's
quick
good.
and then cut it. Oh, the kids that wouldn't eat it, my kids would not eat it raw, but they became hoarders when we started doing it like that. And so I got Bart to bring in Andy. We started doing some of these things at the show. I did it first at the Docks, and then we brought them into the shows. And so part of the culinary aspect of fishing from our standpoint too, we've set the bar because we think a little differently. Phil, now we go to Andy's now if you want to see something.
Yeah,
we eat
that's
fish
fun.
bones.
Yeah.
For guys, so who would have thought? So
Fish
that
bones
bar
were like
keeps
chips.
Oh,
they were
yeah.
so good.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I mean that bar keeps we still keep setting that bar higher and higher. Because of the people we're around, and we're very blessed being around guys that have the innovative side of the cooking aspect too. So that's kind of a neat deal.
And that's part of the whole thing about fishing is the
Absolutely.
culinary aspect, because you're never going to be able to buy that product anywhere.
That's right.
You can't.
That's right. Absolutely.
And even this lobster hoop netting now, these guys, I mean, lobster's $50 a freaking pound.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So if
isn't
you
it?
end up going on a hoop netting trip and come back with 10 pounds, it sounds like $500 worth of lobster to me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. I mean, we're blessed, but I mean, having that at our fingertips, and innovating even with the culinary side has also set us apart from a lot of the industry too, and around the country and around the world. But as we've seen it, the technical aspect of fishing too, we set the bar here. I'm not just saying that. It's the mindset of our consumers and our fishermen. I mean, from the culinary side to the technical fishing side. It's a huge deal here. And that's why we go to these shows, because if we could pick up one little thing that's going to give you an edge, folks, you pick up that one little thing, that show is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, heck yeah.
So keep that in mind. That's what's important too.
Yep, and once again, it's a good segue into reminding everybody. I only have 3 more days after today for the Bart Hall Show, Long Beach. That will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, I believe, is 12 noon to 7 p.m. Saturday is 10 to 7. And Sunday, I believe, is 10 to 5.
Yeah.
And those are going to be fun times.
Oh, yeah. And the wealth of knowledge, and talking to all the people that are there in the booths, the manufacturers and everything, these guys, that's where you learn, folks. You're going to pick up things. If you pick up one thing, you're way ahead. It's going to help you.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see, like you say, your buddies that you were on a fishing trip with.
Absolutely.
Omar is a guy that's on here constantly. He's at the show right now, but he walked up and introduced himself, and it was really nice to meet. He was such a nice young man.
Yeah, see, that's a great part of it.
Yeah, he was way too differential to me. I mean, he was like, you thought he was meeting a celebrity. I go, no, come on, dude. In fact, he looked at me and goes, could I take a photo with you? I go, no, it's $100. And he goes, okay. He starts putting his phone. I go, dude, I'm kidding you. Come on. Yeah, he's a really nice young man. So, Omar, if you happen to be listening to this later on, I know you're goofing around the show, man. That was an honor and a pleasure for me. Daniel Lianos. Danny, I grew up living next door to my neighbors who, during World War II, went through some of the same things as your family. God bless you, brother.
Well, they did. Yeah, they all, and their generation, they just sucked it up. They were tough. They bit their tongue. I would have probably they would have shut me up because I would be a little more boisterous about it, and I would have voiced my opinion a little bit more. Maybe not. I don't know. My dad would have kept me down from doing that, but they were a very tough generation, and they were resilient. And after the war, they, after getting everything completely taken away from you, they all built everything back. And I think with anything you do in life, if you harbor resentment, it's going to eat you up. It's better to forgive and go forward. I think that's where the blessing was, because my dad said, one of his things when they lost the farm, he said, so we got this farm back. There's 10 kids. They had 10 kids in the family. He says, what are you going to do? Divide up this farm 10 ways? You'd probably have fights and arguments. As it turns out, everybody had, went into their own professions and were very successful. And so that was a blessing. Yeah, there were guys that they did lose a lot of stuff, private possessions that they brought from Japan, family heirlooms, and you only had 1-2 suitcases at the most. But if you had kids, you could only carry so much. So a lot of those possessions were lost at that time, along with the houses and everything else. So, but forgiveness, folks, it's in the good book.
And
you have to.
It's also better for you as a person, I think, because
otherwise it eats you up, Phil.
Yeah,
it eats you up. If you harbor resentment, I think it would just tear you up.
Yeah,
it's better to let it go. And I fully believe that's true, because I've seen how the family handled it, and I agree with them.
And that's not to justify what's happened. That's not to say it was.
No,
it's none of that. And it's not
absolutely
not.
You
don't have to forget it in the sense that it's nice to remember it so that maybe we won't repeat
do it again. Right.
But in terms of my life sucks now and I'm done, and look, they ruined my life, or I got a hell of a chore ahead of me now, but let's do it.
Yeah,
we can do it.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Andrew H. Hey, Danny, got any tips for flying with rods? Maybe fly lining with rods?
Or flying. It could be flying.
Oh,
okay.
I
gotta tell you.
Flying.
Yeah.
Taking rods on a plane.
You know, there's
Andrew, I'm a little slow
right
tonight.
now, Andrew.
Don't
there's-
make any fun of me. Yeah.
There's so many good travel rods out there.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to a friend of mine, Steve, who told me he got me into using several.
Steve's at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can see Steve
Yeah.
at the show. He'll tell you. I mean, he's done his homework. He's traveled all over the world, and has for years and years. And it evolved. I used to take one piece, 7-foot rods down into the Amazon, the tubes, but it's a pain. A lot of times we'd have to go on a helicopter or a small plane. Taking those tubes was a real pain. Now you can carry a 4-piece rod that will do the same thing. That's this big, and you have several of them in a tube, and it's much handier to bring on the plane and travel with. And it's with you. Could be on the plane with you, where you don't have to worry about it going through luggage, getting crushed or whatever. It can go in your overhead or whatever it might be. So. Talk to Steve. You told me about the travel rods when you see him. It's
He's Travel Alliance. Travel
Yeah.
something Alliance, right?
Anglers.
Yeah, maybe Anglers Travel.
Forgive me, Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Travel
forgive
Alliance.
us. I saw Steve
Steve
yesterday.
just told me. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Steve told me. Look for him.
And if you're looking
the
for a
Amazon
trip down
guy.
the Amazon, Guyana, any of the trips around the world, he's got it down.
I was going to tell Andrew when he asked, I wasn't sure when you got any tips for flying with rods. Hold a rod in each hand and flap your arms like hell.
Yeah, you might want to put a little paper on the outside, give it a little.
Be like, who was it? Icarus? They got too close to the sun?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, with the wax.
All right. Dan Smith is back again. Man, we can't get rid of Dan Smith. I think he really likes that jacket. He thinks you're really dressed up tonight. We don't want to get rid of Dan Smith. Dan, I'm just kidding.
God.
Danny, if Phil is ever right and the albacore come in, here he goes, twisting the knife. What size rod with your new rod blanks would you recommend for the private boater fishing low to the water? By the way, Dan Smith absolutely loved the video of my kids eating bugs in China. So if you haven't seen it, Dan highly recommends it.
Perfect.
What would you recommend for?
Well, Dan, I got to tell you, so if you're fishing albacore, more than likely you're going to be fishing anchovies. So, you're looking from, you still need to have a variety of rods because you have to scale. When the fish start to chew better and better, you have to start scaling up from 20, 25, 30 to 40, and back in the old days, man, if they ate the 40, that was pretty heavy line. You usually move an albacore around, but I mean, there's a point where they'll eat heavier than that too. So always have an array of rods. You might go with a 25. You can fish down to 20 with it, up to 30. Depends on your budget, but it gives you that variance. 25, you can drop down to 20 pound, and you can use Spectra and just top shot. The maybe 25 on it, medium. And if you needed to go down, use 20-pound fluorocarbon. If you needed to go up, go to 30 pound and splice that into your 25 main line. So there's a lot of different you can cut corners like that, and it's effective. I have stuff for each line class. I just want to be able to pick up a rod and match my 20-pound fluoro, the 20-pound mono, which is back to a Spectra. But
how many rods did you bring on that Freedom trip? That was a 2-day trip or a day and a half? I can't remember, but
I probably bought about 8, maybe.
I would guess, right?
Yeah, and that covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Spectrum. But yeah, I don't want to get caught with my pants down. Not having a piece of the arsenal that makes a big difference this time. Having all that tackle, it doesn't do you any good sitting at home. And you're thinking the whole time, God, I wish I would have brought that. You need to bring it. You need to have it ready because when it changes, and if reading the water is something that it's going to take a lot of guys a little time to figure out. But
what do you mean by that?
Well, you're watching the people on the boat. You're watching what they're getting bit with. In our case, Phil, we had 30 captains on the boat. So as well as I'm looking the whole time. That's how I judge things. You got 30 excellent fishermen on the boat. And, when we first went into the stop, these guys were getting bit on the lighter line. And, of course, the first bluefin we were hanging were smaller bluefin. But I'm looking at 20-pound mono. Most of those guys, most of those are old school skippers, hadn't gone to a lot of the spectra, the short top shots of fluoro and stuff like that. They're fishing more mono, and they were getting bit. Here I'm going, and I'm used to fishing long range where I go straight from spectra to 20-pound fluorocarbon, and you make with my 9-footer, I'm getting a longer cast, so I was out casting them, but not getting bit. And then it's dawning on me. I says, "Well, you dummy, they're bluefin. They see the spectra, they see the line." So I'm going, okay, well,
Because bluefin have superior eyesight, right?
unbelievable eyesight.
Yeah.
My baits were getting out there, swimming down and away, and I'm not getting bit. I mean, it's swimming and swimming. I'm going, waiting for that thing to go, nothing. Wind it in, and all this thought process is really going through your head because I'm amongst 30 captains, and I'm pretty competitive, to say the least. So I go, okay, my 25 has a little more mono on it, not much, but it has some mono, fluorocarbon, and then spectra. And even then, there wasn't enough, and I'm thinking that the bluefin can see my spectra.
Yeah.
So what I ended up going to was my 30 had a lot of mono on it, and then I top shotted the 30 fluorocarbon on top of the 30. And I was lucky that happened because the first fish I hook it and I go, oh, finally I'm bit, set it, and it's walking off like this. I'm going, hey, well, wait a second. What is this thing? Everybody else is up and down, short stroking these 20-something pound fish. This thing just walks off. Well, and Phil remembers, I don't know how, but every fish I hung was the wrong one. It was the one that kicked my behind, but they just walked off, but they were all the nicer fish. So, it had to do with lengthening out my mono and having, and not having that short top shot of fluorocarbon where when you long range fish, you get spoiled. You're usually in waters, you're not competing against 30 other captains too. So keep that in mind too, folks. When you got 30 other great fishermen on the boat, there's a lot of stuff that you got to process in your head to be competitive. And it's really watching and seeing what everybody's doing, what's working for them, and making the adaptation, and for me, it was the added length of mono, I truly believe was the biggest part of it, and having the fluoro, And then when it got down the ways, I had my spectra, so I had enough line to hold some of those bigger fish.
Yeah.
So that was it. But it was a whole thing was a learning process because with bluefin, I was using all ring. I started using all ring light gamakatsus. Well, that one hook that I was using the number 2 gamakatsu with a little ring. Now this thing is the lightest, strong. It's great for albacore fishing. It's great for smaller bluefin. Not great for that 60 to 100-pound bluefin. So I ended up, you remember that, straightening
the hook out. Yeah.
So I went to an owner Gorilla Light, straightened that out. And finally I says, you know what, forget it. I'm going with a heavier hook. I went with a 4X Mustad, and I was using a 1/0, and that was holding all the fish. That's right now. So there's a constant learning process as you're going through it, folks. You have to keep processing the whole time. In particular, when you're amongst a competitive group of guys, you have to really be thinking, and that's part of it. And I think finally at the end, I had it dialed in. That was the 30 fluorocarbon to the 30 mono to the 65 spectra, And I was lucky that 500 accurate had, the term was a 2-speed too, because I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without that button.
Is that your favorite reel, accurate?
Yeah, that's what I'm using now. Yeah. They're lighter, they're stronger, they're machine and they cast unbelievable. So that's what I am utilizing. I've been for years now.
Oh, great. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And, some of those little things that a lot of guys out there know, but a lot of guys don't know is that choosing your bait and all that stuff is right up at the top of the list.
That was it too. Hook placement. I went to a back hook. That was a little different than a lot of guys were doing.
Man, this guy
That's-
Tom here is going to go back to China and be an expert on fishing after
There you go.
you've schooled him here,
There
Danny.
you go. Yeah. Yeah.
What? Yeah, man, I'll tell you. You got this rolling tonight. So you're going to the show Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Are you going to get your grandkids back there? And you don't know. Who knows about their schedule?
I'm going to
and
try.
everything.
We'll see how crowded it gets. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll call Bart ahead of time or something to arrange. What I did with the other show too is go in there a little early so we don't disturb people. The only problem I had was she was my granddaughter was 2 and she did not want to get off that pond. I said, "Yeah, you hooked 5 already. We're good." By this time, all the other kids, the show was opening up and all the kids were coming. I said, "You got your limit. Let's go." But I like the way they catch and just let them go nowadays. Before they used to, all these kids are carting around trout all over the show and everything. But I think it's a neat way that they do that now, where they just catch and release it, because that shows them catch and release too. So that's a fun deal.
All right. Hey, Danny, this is Kim Smith. Dan has been put in the doghouse for a while. Dan has asked too many questions. See? He's getting in trouble. Danny, what's your favorite mono?
My favorite mono, I'm a Russ Iser guy, and it's funny you mentioned that too, because I also represented a company that made the mono for Russ Iser, his last run. But it was funny because not a lot of people know the story, but Russ used to charter my boat. Let's charter the Mustang. And his first, what was it called before the first string? I think it was just Iser line.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was not a copolymer mono. And so we were at Catalina one time, and Russ says, "Here, try this out." And so he hands me his rod and reel. I cast it out, and I catch a hook about a 4.5 pound calico on 15 pound. And as I'm bouncing it, the line snaps. And I said, "Russ, this line is CRAP." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I don't know if you remember how gruff Russ could be.
He's funny.
Said, "Russ, it broke on this 4.5 pound fish, And he says, "Well, it breaks right at 15 pound." I said, "Russ, consumers don't care about it. They're not going to sit there and mic it out and do the break test on it with the different knots like we used to do, when we really test lines out." Well, here's how smart Russ is. Rather than get offended by it, he sourced a new company. And the company that he used, and I'm not going to mention it, but the company he used, I used to represent too, but the company he used, it was a copolymer, changed to a copolymer, and it was super strong. It was unbelievable. His 15 pound would break like at 22. And just to show you, how humble and how he listened to different things like that. That's why to me, he was just a remarkable man. And he saw that when I first brought when George Mio and I had the scanning sonars right here on our boats here.
Yeah.
And, Russ was here at our landing here too at 22nd Street. And Russ came down and looked at it. He goes, "Oh my God." So he hauled it out and he put one on shortly after too. And so he was so smart, and he had that ability to keep learning, which a lot of old
Just
guys
like you.
don't have.
I know.
Yeah, we get very stubborn about certain things too, and that's wrong. That's when you limit yourself.
I was going to say this about that trip, the 30 captains and everything.
Yeah.
Most of the old guys had their old school tackle. Most of the young guys, and there wasn't that many, it was mostly old guys, had the brand new up-to-date tackle. But one old guy had the brand new up-to-date tackle, and that was you. You were staying with the times. I saw that immediately.
I need the edge. You need the edge, But that's how I fished everything, whether it was trout, bass, or everything. The tackle always makes a difference. That's why you go to these shows, And very blessed to have worked with a lot of these manufacturers over the years and help with consulting on some of that stuff, But, that's the only way you get better, is by listening, And if you take that constructively and not as an insult, You know,
Tom wishes some of his
That's it.
students in China would take that advice and listen a little bit more. I know how that is, believe me.
All directions.
Matthew Martin. Hi, guys. Great show. Hey, Matthew, thank you for joining us. Question for Danny. Of all your years of being a captain, what does it mean to anchor proper on a spot?
okay, we call it setting up a spot. Okay, and Matthew, what it has to do with is setting up. Let me give you a hypothetical thing. Say we're 100 miles out at Cortez Bank, right? And say the current's coming a certain way. Now you want to be on the leading edge of the current. So when you have scope, you run the boat up into the current. You put it down, and as the embankment comes up and you're on the shelf, you're sitting right there to where you're fishing that shelf. So your scope is going out in deeper water here. You're hanging there. The current's taking it across the bank. Well, those fish are coming up on that structure, and I always called it position alpha. And it was even more critical when I was fishing like Castilla Casitas for bass fishing, because we were double anchored, and we were anchored specifically on a specific rock or a corner, and current had everything to do with it. Now 99% of the tournament bass guys had no idea there was even current because they're on a trolling motor. And when you've got the wind moving you around and you got the current moving you underneath, how do you know which way anything's going? You don't unless you're holding constant. So by having two anchors out and holding constant, excuse me, when you cast out, if your line starts moving this way, you know the current's going that way. So what you do is you slack up on your stern anchor here, pull up on this one. Now you move over. When you cast out, it's now fishing that particular spot. So accordingly, when you're fishing the islands or the banks offshore or whatever, setting up with respect to the current is huge. So, and I calling it position alpha, getting in the best position.
Yeah, for sure. Dan Bates. Hey, Dan, how are you, my friend? Danny, is there a shop or a place I can look at and get my hands on an edge rod? They seem to be online, but direct. But it's tough to buy one online. If you don't like it, you can't really return it. You know anything about edge rods?
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I that was Gary's, but that's the one drawback in selling directly. And not having it hands on.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing, because a lot of them are a little different.
Buying underwear.
Yeah, buying underwear. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to feel the rod, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you sound like a soprano if it's too tight, right?
Oh my God, you guys are out of control. Hey, everybody, hit that like button. We deeply appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the Friedman Adventures YouTube channel. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And Danny and I deeply appreciate everything you are doing for us. So 3 more days of the show, man. It's here and it's going to be gone before you know it.
Yeah.
And remember, everybody, it's now in January. It's not in March. The Bart Hall Show.
Yeah.
The show, the PCS show, is in March this year.
In March, yeah.
And Bill, hopefully we'll have him on a podcast there very, very soon also.
Sure. Well, I think in Southern Cal, Phil, I think we could sustain 2 shows.
Yeah.
We got such a big fishing crowd, and the diversity and the span of fishing, from trout fishing to bass fishing, fly fishing, saltwater stuff, and travel. Worldwide travel fishing,
Yes.
the best spots in the world. I mean, so we got such a great opportunity to get everything done at both these shows, because they both will have, all the right guys there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
And it's fun.
and they have a ton of seminars also.
Yes, that's also and some and the venues. There's venues for the kids that are great. All I can tell you is you just have to go. I mean, it's a nice family outing, So, yeah, we've been doing it for so many years. Holy smokes.
I know. Well, shoot, we don't have any other questions up there, man. We've been going well over an hour, believe it or not.
We
I don't
got the
believe
day in,
that.
folks.
It's been a great show as usual,
Awesome.
Danny. I deeply appreciate it. And man, what have we covered? We've got all kinds of great fishing going on, halibut, barracuda, some sand bass,
Absolutely.
and everything like that. We've got some
Absolutely.
great stuff on the horizon. We got the show, and of course, all your knowledge and expertise that you're able to
Yeah.
share with everybody. That is always great, Danny.
So we'll have to figure it out. I think I'll be,
You're
Phil and I
thinking
were talking,
Saturday,
maybe
right?
Saturday. I'll be over there at Bart Hall Show.
I'll be over there
Yeah,
tomorrow with the elf, Greg Bates. He dresses up as the
Yes.
elf once in a while.
Oh yeah.
The elf is
Perfect.
going to be my cameraman tomorrow.
Oh,
so
that's
that should be a complete
That's
disaster.
perfect.
And we haven't seen Scott Butcher tonight. Where is Scott, I wonder?
Ah,
He's very
yeah,
quiet.
yeah, that is odd.
Scott, you're fired. Danny says you're fired. No, he didn't want any more. He don't want any more nonsense out
Right.
of you. Danny, you want to say goodbye to your fans?
Well, folks, we'll see you at the shows. And we'll see. I'd like I said, I'll probably be there Saturday. Phil, you going every day? You going over there every day, or
Yeah,
what
I'll
day?
be over there
Okay,
tomorrow.
cool,
I'll be
cool,
every day.
awesome. Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
So if you get
And Phil and I will probably try to hook up on Saturday and probably rock the show maybe and do some.
yeah, I want to see people
filming
mistake
and
you
stuff.
for Wayne Coteau and
Oh yeah. My
yeah,
doppelganger. Yeah,
exactly.
it was always fun. We're always laughing.
All right, hey, a couple guys. Richie Rich says, love this show, and thank you, Danny and Phil, for your great knowledge. Rich, thank you so very, very much. JS says, thanks, Phil and Danny. Man, they
Well,
love you, Danny.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate that.
We'll
Thank you guys.
see you next Thursday with another Danny
got it.
Kadota Show. I'll be with you tomorrow morning for the morning briefing, bright and early, from a beach somewhere near you. Thanks again, Danny.
All right, Phil. We'll see you.